Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Average Ontario Anglers Fishing Podcast. We've got Jesse here beside me, as always, and myself, as Jesse says, the man with the mustache, although, I guess I have a mustache, but am I a man yet?
I don't know.
So we have a cool topic today, something that I haven't really heard on other podcasts, but something about tackle care, and especially coming to the end of the year. I know it's a touchy topic, but we're going to be putting some of our baits away. It's late fall right now, and as winter approaches, our summer gear is going to be sitting in storage for a few months before we break it out, which we can't wait for.
Yeah, it's a sad time of year.
I can't wait to take it all out again. How about you? It's like, it's not even away yet. So we have to start us off in the episode, though. We have an interesting fishing fact from Jesse, and I see you've laid out some interesting bits of wood before me.
Ow.
Aha, you got yourself. You sharpened those hooks.
I did. So I thought we could do kind of a combination of TNT, interesting fishing fact, and story time.
Ooh.
All at once. And it's one grade, Andrew, not three separate ones.
It's the triple threat.
So I thought that we could talk about one of the most iconic musky lures of all time. And what do you think that is, Andrew?
Bucktails.
I have 5 Suicks on the table, and he says bucktails.
Yeah.
What a moron.
I'm sorry, my answer was completely incorrect.
So I thought, not Suicks in general, but dive and rise, but we're going to talk about Suicks. I do have a bobby bait on the table. But if you're not familiar with what a Suick is, it is a dive and rise musky bait, often in the category of jerk baits. And I know the bass guys will get mad and say, those aren't jerk baits. But believe me, my friends, these were called jerk baits well before bass jerk baits were even invented. So we're going to just call them dive and rise baits. But how would you describe, Andrew, a Suick to anyone that has never seen one?
Take a broomstick, cut it in half lengthwise, and then shove a metal lip in the back end.
Yes, they literally look like
and hang some giant trebles off that
chunks
thing.
of wood. I always say to some of my buddies when we're fishing Suicks, like the unweighted ones, it's like casting a popsicle stick because they're just lightweight pieces of wood. And the whole point of a dive and rise bait is that they do just that. When you pull pause method, so when you pull the line down, these things, they dive down, but since they're made of buoyant wood, they rise, dive and rise. So it dives down and then it bobs right up to the surface again, or it just goes up in the water column again. And there's all kinds of different sizes. Suick makes Suick thrillers, as these are called, 4.5 inches all the way up to 14 inches, which is the Franken Suick, which is, I actually held it in my hands at a tackle shop in Belleville. It literally is it's like a broomstick.
I want to get some of the 4-inch ones. I want to try them for like bass and
I've
walleye.
never seen them in stores.
Yeah.
But the size that we generally have, we do have the 7-inch ones. We have a few of those.
I've got a 9-inch.
A 9-inch is probably the most popular in Ontario and probably the most popular overall. But the 10-inch size is something that I've recently got into this year. And although it doesn't seem like it's that much bigger. You're like, oh, it's only an inch bigger. It is slightly thicker too. So it is a much larger bait. So they come in several styles. They come in plastic, which is the high impact.
Do they come in hairy?
No.
Harry Styles.
We're gonna cut
all
that.
our tween fans just absolutely, who we don't have, liked that joke.
I was gonna say I don't know who that is. So
absolutely no one.
I'm glad. Yeah, so they come in floating. They come in weighted, which is floating as well, but it has a slower rise. And then, as I have here, Andrew noticed here, I do have a dive and rise bait that is a weighted one, but it also has some bell sinkers attached to the split ring on the front. And why I did that is because I wanted a bait that worked even deeper. Because in the fall, this time of year, the muskie are very lethargic. And these baits, you want them to not only get deeper, as the muskies are oftentimes very deep this time of year, but you also want that bait to slowly rise up so it stays in their face longer. You don't want the bait to get down in front of them and then it just quickly bobs up out of their range, because sometimes they're not very active and they're not going to go up and swim. So the weighted ones and adding extra weight can be the deal.
And these are good all the way into the fall. Like, a lot of guys think these are great over weeds. They are in the summer, but like right into the cold water, you can use these things.
Yep. It's pretty much a bait that, from what I hear, like we just started using in the last 3 years ourselves, but some anglers use them pretty much all of open water season. So I feel like it's a bait. It's been around, and I'm going to talk about that very quickly in the story time part of this. but they've been around for literally decades, and they've probably caught more muskie than almost any other lure out there. So I thought we could just go through a little bit of some history. I'm just going to read this off because this is actually, it's interesting. Now, the guy who invented the Suick, his name was Frank Suick. What are the odds, right? And he was born in 1899. The olden days, as we like to call them. So, Frank Suick.
1899, so just before turn of the century.
Yep. So this, I'm just going to read this. This is right off the Suick website. I read through, I'm not going to read all of it because it's pretty lengthy, but this I thought was pretty funny.
You're not going to pull an Andrew and just read something offline for like an hour?
I couldn't paraphrase this better, so that's why I'm going to read it. So Frank Suick developed a close relationship with many of the railroad men because there's a railroad right where they live. Mm-hmm. So this opened an opportunity for easy travel to Pelican Lake by steam-powered freight train. See, this is old. This is a steam-powered freight train. So once he made the 1-hour trip, he was dropped off and would rent a boat from one of the resorts or a bait shop. So in the days before he had invented the Suick, the most popular way to catch a muskie was by fishing suckers. And that's still done today.
Yep.
So they would trail suckers behind a rowboat. And he says this was tedious and time-consuming. And when a fish finally hit the bait, a long wait was required before setting the hook. Now, you think now we have all these short strike rigs and stuff like that. Back then, it was not like that.
Yeah.
And why don't you describe, because I remember you did an interesting fishing fact about that. What would they do back then?
So they would just open the bail. And so even in the book, the Fisherman's Bible, where he says you let them eat it and you let them swallow the bait, sometimes waiting up to 15 minutes for them to actually swallow it so that you know the hook's in the mouth. Because if on a big sucker, they'll grab it first and then they'll swim away, they'll position it, reposition it, and then take it. That's how they eat their regular food.
Yeah. So it was, again, like you said, it's time consuming. So what he wanted was a bait or some kind of contraption that he could cast out. And as soon as the fish grabbed it, he could set the hook immediately. That to him, that was his goal. So he started whittling some wood, and he came out with a bait that looks almost exactly the same as the Suick that you can buy now. It literally looks the same. They didn't change anything because it worked.
I wonder what he whittled out of. Like, was it just like a boat oar or something?
Well, it's
or was it like a pickaxe handle from like the railroad crew?
Imagine though, he's just rowing the boat and he starts whittling the handle of the rope of the oar. So he came out with the lure. Everyone just calls it the Suick. That's the brand. The dive and rise style bait is called the Suick Thriller. So the Thriller did exactly what he wanted to accomplish. It allowed a fisherman to set the hooks as soon as the fish hit. So you didn't have to wait, 15 minutes for them to grab the sucker and swim off with this. So when he was whittling out this lure, this is an interesting part that I thought, it's like one of those classic things. Like I know in if you listen to music like Metallica, for instance, one of the weird parts of the Master Puppet solo, they were like, oh, Kirk Hammett was jamming and his pick slid off the pickup and made this crazy noise that he can't replicate. And they kept it in the recording and it sounded awesome. And you're like, wow, that's cool that happened. Same thing happened with this guy. He wasn't playing like heavy metal though. So he was whittling this lure. And what happened was, as he was doing that, his knife slipped and cut off part of the tail of the bait. Huh. And when he tried to fix it, what happened is it led to the development of the adjustable stainless steel tail, which allows the lure to be tuned and run at different depths. So if you look at a Suick, if you've never seen one, it's a wooden bait, but the back tail has like a crankbait diving lip, but it's on the back of the bait. Mm-hmm. And you can actually adjust the fin. If you bend it down slightly or cup it, you can make it dive deeper or adjust the action of the bait as well. So that's interesting that happened to him where he was like, oh crap, I cut off the tail. And then for some reason just, stuck a piece of metal in there and he's like, oh, cool.
I thought maybe like his knife slipped and he took a big chunk out on the front because there's this big scoop underneath the head too.
So he obviously, like all the other guys we talked about that, tinkered with their lures to get them perfect. He had this goal to catch 30 muskies in 30 days. Now, even now,
that's cool.
I'm sure there are guys or anglers in general that are muskie guides that probably could do that. No problem, especially on some of the better lakes. But back then, that was like unheard of. 30 muskie in 30 days. That was crazy. So he actually did this. And many serious muskie fishermen tried to beg, borrow, or steal more information about the success of his mystery lure. So imagine that. you come back to the launch and the guy, I'm sure back then, I don't know if they kept musky back then because this was back in the day.
Yeah.
He comes back to the launch every day with all these musky, and you're like, how'd you catch those? And he's just like, I caught one yesterday. I caught one the day before. I caught one the day before. Oh, heck, it's 29 in a row. You know, they've been catching them. So basically, long story short, he started producing these in 1942, the Suick Thriller. And since then, they have been one of the most popular and productive musky lures of all time. Cool. So I thought that was a cool story. And just as a side point, the Suick family still runs Suick lures. And I'm not saying this as a bash against Suick. This happens with all companies. I bought a Suick Thriller, and it was defective, that particular one. Now, we've owned many of them and not had a problem with them at all. Yeah. I actually talked to a bunch of guides and other people that fish Suicks heavily, and they had never heard of that problem either. It was just a freak one in a million thing. I emailed Suick directly. I had a brand new Suick in the mail 6 days later. Yeah. They were fantastic. They emailed me. They were like, oh, they were so sorry. Like, oh, sorry for the inconvenience. Hello. What lure do you want? No problem. We'll get it to you as fast as possible, because they know it was fall. Yeah. And I thought it was amazing. The customer service was fantastic. That's awesome. And the handcraftedness of these baits, like you pick up these baits, they're very simple baits, but these are all handmade in USA. Great baits. So, and just the other day, so we can talk very quickly, me and Andrew went out, and it was really cold water. Not really cold, but it's getting colder. We're at that point. And Andrew raised a fish on a Suick. Yep. Which was great, because I'm like, I want Andrew to catch one on the Suick.
It came really close that day. Actually, on the Suick, I raised one fish twice, and I raised a second fish just down the river too.
And that same fish, Andrew was fishing a Suick, the perch colored one. Yep. And I had this big black one, which is really a cool color. It's called Black Hollow. So it's black, and it has like a holographic sticker on the side. And I raised the same fish as Andrew's. It's funny because we were talking about, everyone says the Suick doesn't look like anything. It doesn't look like a minnow or anything like that. It just is a chunk of wood. But every time we fish with them, they find them fascinating. They always come up. Either they crush them or they come out of the weeds and come and look at it. For some reason, the design of this bait just intrigues fish. And that's why I honestly think that every person who fishes for pike and muskie definitely should own some kind of dive and rise bait, but a Suick for sure, because they're classic. Yeah. But anyway, that's awesome. Kind of the story time, interesting fishing fact, and TNT.
I love it. That's an A, a solid A, and
that's
edging onto A+.
That's a solid A, just as solid as this Suick.
Why did it crumble in it? No, I'm
just kidding. I'm gonna have to phone Suick again. Just kidding.
No, that's awesome. And yeah, I love those baits too.
Yeah, they're fun. They're fun to work. Yep. And actually, this particular one, just as a thing, this is Girl Dinner. I named this Suick Girl Dinner, and this one over here is the one that I like to call Boy Dinner. And if you don't get that reference, you're probably over the age of 30. So good for you.
All right. So, going to the main topic of the episode. That was an awesome, interesting fishing fact / blah, 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 all those things you said. That was really good.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
He's like, I forget already. It wasn't interesting.
That triple threat was awesome. That was good.
Thank you.
Now, on to the boring topic. Tackle organization and care. So, for me, I love collecting old baits. I've seen, and I've been given tackle boxes from like the early 1900s that look like a tin lunch pail, all the way to what we have modern day. I've seen, go to a store, you see what they have. So with tackle organization, there's so many different options. Like we grew up using the old like flambeau, like just open. It looks like a toolbox. You open it up. There's like one tray inside.
The trays swivel up.
Yeah,
hinge up.
Yeah, it's hinged right onto the lid. So when you open it, it folds out. So that's something that I'm sure most of our listeners, they're at least familiar with it. If not, that's what they still run with. Yeah, they're super popular. You can still buy them today. You also have tackle trays. They come in either a soft box or like a hard box with trays that you can unlock and slide out. You got musky boxes, which you can either make your own, or as many people have done, or it's just another style of how to store the lures inside a box. You have fly boxes, all the little flies, they'll sit inside this little compartment into like the wedges of foam. Even like hook guards is something I would classify as organization, because they sleeve over to the treble hooks. And I know you use them yourself, Jesse. Yeah. But like, what of all the ones that you personally have used over the years, what are some of the organization of the kind of that genre, what are the ones that you like the best?
I think, like you said, I started off originally with the classic, like Plano or Plano, like, toolbox style one that you open up and it had two hinged, slots for lures, like as they went up, 2 levels basically. And I quickly, even at a young age, outgrew that. I had too many lures. So I ended up getting the double one that hinged out on both sides. So you had 4. And the only problem with that is if you ever knock your tackle box over, all the stuff on the top, tackle tray would just spill out. So I very quickly decided that I liked the trays, the tackle trays. And I started off with the 3600 size, which is what a lot of people use. And now I'm pretty much a 3700 guy size. So I like that size. It holds a lot of stuff. I like those because what I find that I like to do is I have tons of them. I have tons of them, like dozens of them. And they'll literally be like plastic bait, jigs, chatter baits. And then whatever day that I'm going fishing, I can just grab what I need for that day. I don't have to reorganize my tackle box. I just grab the trays that I need for that day. And then I have a few mixed boxes that just say pike on them.
Yeah.
And you open that.
Or salmon.
Yeah. And you open that box and it has a bunch of random stuff. It has spoons, spinners, chatter baits, jerk baits, all that stuff. So if I just need one box and I'm like, hey, let's go down to the bay and fish for pike. I just grab my pike box and I'm good. And it's just one tray. That's all you need.
Yep.
So I like that because in one of my rooms, I have a bunch of shelves and I just stack up all those boxes. They're labeled on the outside. I can see what's in them and I can just grab the ones I need. Easy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I prefer the trays. I was the same thing. I had a large 3-tier one that folded out.
Yeah.
It was flambeau. My dad still actually uses it actually. But that thing got filled up pretty
Lame.
quick.
Your dad's like, I'll kill you.
So I had that one for years. And then I got, back in the day, it was a Bass Pro 3700. And it was the
soft
red bag.
side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
soft side bag.
You still have that?
I still have that.
Yeah.
I'm still using it.
All the zippers
15
don't
years
work.
later,
It's
like,
ripped.
It's in rough shape.
It's stained with so much
You know what, though?
yum crayfish formula.
I can fit 6 3700 or 370 tackle trays in that one. Just in that one soft bag. And I think it was designed to fit 5, but I can fit one more on top.
Yeah.
So I really like it because I have so much option. Like I have one box that's just frogs. I have one box that's jerk baits. Another box is crankbaits. Another one that's chatterbait, spoons, and spinners. And it's still packed to the gills. Like I have too much stuff with me, even at this time.
Don't we all?
I'm not getting rid of any. Don't ask for it. But
And that's the one you're running right now.
that's still the one I'm running right now. I am looking to get swap it out. Now that I have the boat, I want to get something where I still want to use the trays, but be able to organize them within the boat or move them into a bag. I want to kind of like you have, where you have multiple trays at home and just kind of bring what you need on the day that you go.
This is actually the one that I was thinking that you get.
Yeah,
So
that one's super nice.
we'll post some pictures if you're listening to this on YouTube. The tackle box that I got about 2 years ago is I like Plano. Like I've always been a Plano guy. I just like their style. I actually got the Guide series. It's the one that looks like, it's kind of like a leather color. The one that I was showing Andrew, it actually holds like 8 3700 size trays and 3 3600 size trays on the side. I have the one that holds 5 3700 trays and 1 3600 tray. And it's not huge. I wanted to get the big one. This one actually also becomes a backpack.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Okay,
so it has
definitely
backpack
want
straps. Now, they're not cheap. They're about 200. The big one is about $240 and the smaller one's about 169, 70 bucks, something like that. But it's got the hard base, the plastic base. So if you're sitting in your boat, water doesn't get in, which is great.
Yep.
It's got all the pockets you need for all your tools, and it's just really good quality. And the main thing I like about the Elite Series boxes, or the Guide Series, is they have the magnetic top.
Yeah, that is such a
So
cool
I love it
feature.
because I'll be fishing any lure, like any like tungsten weight, and I'll just throw it on top of the bag and it's like just sticks right to it. And I don't have to worry about it dropping to the bottom of the boat.
Well, not tungsten because it's not magnetic, but
Is it? No. Well,
but the hook it's attached to would be.
it is, yeah. So yeah, and the thing is, like we were saying, like Andrew bought that nice bag. If you buy a nice tackle box, generally it's gonna last you a long time.
I have beat mine like to threads.
It looks
it's
like
a
trash
rough
now.
shape.
It looks like trash.
It doesn't like stay
it looks like something
upright
that
anymore.
if you found a dead raccoon, you would bury it in Andrew's tackle box.
If you found my tackle box and you saw a dead raccoon, you'd be like, makes sense.
actually, if you found a dead raccoon in Andrew's tackle box, you'd be like, okay, makes sense.
I'd be like, musky bait. So I know you've also used, I'm not as familiar with the use of them, but hook guards.
Yeah.
So they just sleeve over top of a treble hook.
Yep.
And one thing that I do want to get some. You can buy them pretty cheap. You buy 100 pack for what? Like $15 or something on Amazon.
Yep.
And you put them over each individual treble hook. And I really like I like seeing Jesse use them. He puts them on jerk baits where we have like insanely sharp, like Japanese super sharpened hooks.
Yeah. So like we upgrade our hooks, and on jerk baits and topwaters mostly, I'm a huge believer in upgrading the hooks. I want, if that bass sucks that bait in, I've seen so much underwater footage of a smallmouth just sucking a jerk bait in and expelling and spitting it out, and the hooks, they don't do anything.
Yeah.
So if you get those super sharp Japanese hooks or just any premium, ultra premium thin wire hook, I've seen so many videos of the bass sucks it in and just one point.
Yeah.
Just nicks the side of the mouth and it catches, and that fish shakes its head, and all of a sudden there's
Fully
like
engaged.
9 hooks in it.
Yeah.
And that's why when I spend the big money on the big hooks, I feel it does definitely help you catch more fish, but those hooks are very fragile. So I like those hook cards. They cost a few cents each.
Yeah.
You pop that over your hook, and when you throw a bunch of jerk baits inside your tackle box, the hooks aren't tangled together, which everyone hates.
That's a big thing. So
that was a big reason.
Protects the hooks.
But the main reason for me is to protect the hooks.
Yeah.
I don't care about the tangly part, but that is a huge plus too.
It's a big plus because, like you said, if the bass gets 1 point of these hooks, like it's hooked now. The same goes for you when you're reaching in and trying to handle and untangle these like extremely sharp hooks off of a massive 6 jerkbait shoved in the same slot.
And I'll have to say one benefit and another reason that I used hook keepers, they're actually called hook bonnets. And the main reason is if you are someone like me or Andrew that fishes out of small crafts, you can't bring 50 trays with you. Like we fish with a bunch of guys in bigger boats, bass boats, and they have so much storage in their boat. They can bring 20, 30 trays with them, no problem. Like you can have...
And you open the tray, and in each nice divided slot,
there's one bait. Yeah.
I have one tray like that, and that's my BFS, and that's because they all fit in single slot trays.
Yeah. So storage space is at a premium in a small boat. Even in a bigger boat, if you're fishing with a bunch of your buddies, there's not a lot of space. So oftentimes you have to jam. Like if you see my jerkbait box...
backcountry. Like when you do backcountry, I amalgamate... And I'll shove as much as I can into one tray.
There might be 12 jerkbaits in one slot of your tackle box. And if you don't have hook keepers, you pull that thing out.
You got all 12.
You got 12 of them. And by the time you get the bait out, the fish is gone. So that's another thing too.
And I really like the point you made about that tackle box, which I do want to get. So send me that link.
Yeah.
With the hard bottom. That's the biggest issue I have with mine is... in the bottom of the boat, again, if my boat, it's not leaking, it's fine, but any water splashes in the boat, it goes to the bottom of the hull.
Or it's raining.
Or it's raining at all, anything gets in. And it soaks into the bottom of the bag. And because I'm using regular tackle trays, you can get them that are waterproof themselves, but we'll go into a bit about those too. But the tackle tray, moisture will seep in, and water can seep in, especially if it's sitting in a puddle in the bottom of the boat. Like Jesse said, if it's raining and there's, a half inch of water in the bottom, then it's just every single part of that bag is wet.
Yeah.
And so to have the hard bottom, it eliminates that from happening. So at least your tackle trays that, maybe you've gone fishing for the day and you've only opened 2. Well, there's only 2 that have any moisture in them now because the rest has remained dry. But the biggest thing that I would say, and it's year end is important, but after every single trip, what do you do with your tackle trays? Or if you had any tackle box, what do you do?
If I'm ice fishing, if I'm bass fishing, musky fishing, doesn't matter. I take my tackle trays out of my tackle box and I open them up.
Yep.
I open
do the same thing. I open them
up. And
up.
always on my kitchen table. And guess what? My wife doesn't care. It's great.
I do it right behind the front door.
I also don't have pets or children that can grab lures. Yeah. So if you do have any of those things, heaven forbid, don't put lots of sharp lures on your table within toddler's hand reach.
I have 3 cats, so most of the time I'll have them drying
Andrew
up in the attic.
Is a crazy cat lady.
Cats are amazing, and I know that you love them too, so shut your face.
Okay, so my cat growing up was actually named Dummy, so that will tell you how much I love cats. Anyway. You have to open them up, because if you don't, hooks rust.
And you stack them like you do with tricks during like euchre, you know. So you open one and you stack the other one opposite with it open, and then opposite again, and you stack them all up but open on top of each other, and it just allows airflow in so it dries out. And if you don't do that, you're gonna have the bane of every car owner, of everyone who has to deal with boat issues, with anything, is rust. And when your baits, and there's a little bit of rust in there, it really starts to speed up the process on that specific bait on those hooks, but also elsewhere in the box. So by drying it out, you can eliminate that issue.
A lot of the tackle trays too, they have Z-rust, right?
Mm-hmm. So they have some tackle trays. Yeah, so it's embedded within the tray itself. So it's like moisture wicking.
Yeah.
Another one too is an old trick that we used to do, me and my dad, is you can either purchase like the silica gel packs that just pull moisture from the air. I know some guys just have a big one, they put it in the bottom of their like big tackle box, right?
Yeah.
But if you're using the trays, when you buy a new pair of shoes, you buy like a new tool or something gets shipped to you, you'll often find like the silica packets. It says, like, do not eat.
Do not eat.
Yeah, I'm like, amateurs. So we used to take those, and I just throw a couple of those in each of the trays.
Yeah.
Them do that can help. I wouldn't rely on that.
It
even
does
have
help,
some
though.
dividers that are full of that stuff too, and they just fit right into as a slot.
Yeah, a lot of the like high-end Plano stuff has that.
Yeah.
And if you are thinking about using silica and you're like, I don't have a lot, or I don't have collected, I actually have a whole Ziploc bag full because I used to get a lot of like packages, but you can buy it on Amazon.
Yeah.
And you can buy like a whole bag of it. Throw one or two in your box.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
So yeah, they're easy to get. You can get it for free, and if you are a person who you generally find it around, start collecting them and start using them.
Yeah.
If there's a free option for you. But getting rid of the moisture, and especially rust. Now Jesse and I, we know a lot about rust because we used to actually do rust protection.
Yeah.
When we used to work together at a couple of places. But the cool thing with or not the cool thing, the bad thing with rust is
cool.
It starts when it's humid and when it's warm. So if it's cold, that's why, you look at stuff outside in the middle of the winter, it might not rust if it's been left outside. But as soon as it starts to thaw in the spring, or as soon as you bring it inside and it's still damp, that's when you're going to see that rust develop. So with your fishing hooks and stuff like that, if you've been fishing in the fall and you put them away and they're a little damp inside and it goes in your nice warm storage in your attic or your garage,
you're going to have to buy new hooks.
You're going to have a terrible time in the spring.
Yeah. Yeah.
So inevitably though, your hooks can get rusty. So what do you do when your hooks get rusty? Let's say there's a little bit of cosmetic rust on it, and you put your Suick away wet, and now there's a bit of like this powdery rust on the outside of the hook. What would you recommend?
Well, at the beginning of any season, I'm always gonna, especially musky lures, I'm always gonna sharpen my hooks.
Yep.
Even if I sharpen them recently, I'm gonna check and make sure they're all sharp. And if you have a good file, you can just file off all that rust.
If it's a light amount of rust, you can actually grab, it's called emery cloth or grit cloth, and it's for, like, plumbers use it for cleaning up their copper pipes and whatnot. So you can grab a bit of that stuff, and if you want to take off the rust off a hook, instead of trying to file it with a hard file around all the edges, you can just wrap it around that hook shank and just rub it off.
Yeah.
So that's a good way too if there's just light cosmetic rust. But generally, if you have a bunch of small crankbaits, there's no way you're getting rid of all that.
Time to get some new hooks.
So when you're looking to get new hooks, I just thought I'd talk a little bit about how to figure out what hooks you want to get for your baits. So I know that the number 4 treble hooks are generally around the size that you find on a 1/2 ounce crankbait. So for me, I say so way too much. That's the new 100% for me.
I wasn't going to say anything, but anyway. So
with crankbaits, number 4 treble hook, and I really like the Gamakatsu G Finesse treble hooks. I mentioned them before.
They're amazing.
They're really smooth, super sharp.
Chemically sharpened.
Yeah. And again, we talked before in my interesting fishing fact about chemically sharpened versus mechanically sharpened. As long as it's not ripping through rocks, so crankbait, I generally don't pound the ground too much unless it's a square bill, or top waters. I really like the chemically sharpened hooks because they just stay sticky sharp. On a top water, you can usually get away with a size number 2. But whenever you do change the hooks, just make sure you can upsize in some baits. Jerk baits, I wouldn't recommend it because you can really throw off the action by changing the weight that's on it. So good rule of thumb is to get something that's just as close as possible to what's existing. But if you would like to size up, then just make sure that the treble hooks can't tangle on themselves, because there's nothing worse than every cast you bring it in, you're like, well, half my hooks are busy with each other and will not be embedding themselves into a fish face.
Yeah. And it's easy enough to find that information. So if you say you have like a Rapala Husky jerk and you're like, what hooks do I need? If you literally go on their website, it'll tell you. It'll be like this size of lure, this number hook. It'll say number 4, number 2, whatever number it is.
And if you are replacing your hooks, one thing that I like to do, one of the guys we met at CanCast a while ago is from Carson from Dangle Baits.
Yep.
And he makes some really awesome feathered treble hooks.
Yes.
So if you're replacing hooks, look at getting a couple of your favorite baits, get them dressed up a little bit. Get a feathered treble or a bladed treble or something. But check out Carson's from Dangle Baits. His are really nice, like really good selection. And you can put on a hook like that, and he ties them on good hooks too.
Very sharp, yes.
So you can get a good hook like that, and now you have a little bit more enticement on your topwater, on your jerkbait or whatever.
And there are a lot of pros that swear. They swear by a feathered treble for jerkbaits and topwaters.
Or even putting in, some guys, they even recommend using red hooks or colored hooks on the front treble, so it zeroes in more on the head, a bit more attention to the main part of that bait that you want them to strike. Is there any hooks that you prefer that you would recommend if you had to replace some stuff?
There are a lot of good hooks on the market. And like you said, the G Finesse hooks are fantastic. The main thing that might stop a lot of people from buying them is generally they're pretty pricey. You're looking at like $2 a hook.
That's why drying out your tackle box, drying out your tackle box is so important.
I think Andrew needs to dry out. Glug glug. Just kidding.
You don't want to be spending this money all the time.
Yeah.
But when you have to, I'm a firm believer of, buy once, cry once.
Yes.
So I'll buy a good hook and I'll have it now, and I'll look after that bait and make sure it's dry every time I put it away. That way those hooks are on there for years.
Yeah. And every time you pin a good fish, you're like, oh, like for me, when I have good hooks on a bait, I have so much more confidence when I'm chucking a jerkbait. But yeah, the G Finesse hooks are fantastic. They have a nano coating on them, which a lot of the companies are doing now. So I've used the new VMC Redline hooks. They just came out. They also have that nano coating on them. So it's basically a coating that goes onto the hook that makes it very slick.
Yeah.
So it slides into the fish's mouth easier. Does it make a difference? I don't know. All I know is those hooks are dang sharp, and I really like them.
I would say too that, the penetration ability is not just how sharp the point is, but like you were saying, how smooth it is on the side.
Yeah.
So if you have something that is getting rusty, even if it just looks cosmetic rust, and it's not really degrading the structural integrity of that hook, that's still rough. It's like pulling a sandpapery hook through the mouth. So your hook penetration may not be as good. So it might even be worthwhile to change your hooks if you're concerned about that at all.
And the hook that I generally buy, again, like you said, there's so many good hooks. We really like owner hooks.
Owner hooks are
ridiculous. They are really expensive. But if I'm putting it on a bait that's worth it, like if I'm putting it on like a swim bait, like a glide bait or something, or a musky bait, those owner hooks, they have the cutting point.
Yeah.
It's basically like a knife blade.
Those
insane. Are fantastic. But for general use,
VMC has some pretty good hooks.
VMC has good hooks, but my favorite overall hooks are the Berkeley Fusion 19 hooks.
Those are nice.
They sound, it's Berkeley, it's not going to be that good. They're really sharp and they're really thin. And I've used them on jerk baits. I've used them, they're like punching or like flipping hooks, all different kind of hooks, but they're little EWG short shank trebles. I put those on my jerk baits. They're really sharp. It's such an upgrade over almost every existing budget jerk bait.
And that's the thing too, is you can upsize the hook, but go the short shank.
Yeah.
So it may be a larger hookup rate or bigger hookup ratio because the treble hook is larger, but with a shorter shank, it still won't tangle with the back one.
Yeah.
So it could be really good to look at, like you said, the Berkeley Fusion or anything that's short shank, but keeping, as we always say, the best that you can afford is going to have benefit for you, especially when it comes to your hooks.
And one thing I'll add about just picking a treble is there's generally two different kinds of treble hook you can buy. There's round bend, and then there's like EWG, kind of like a hook point that kind of bends inward. So there's advantages to both of them. The advantage to the EWG style or the wide gap style is when a fish grabs it, because the hook points in slightly, it's more likely to lock in the fish's mouth. The fact that they kind of bend in slightly means that you might not get the best penetration if a fish just swipes at it.
Mm-hmm.
The round bends are straight out like this. So you'll notice a lot of jerk baits will have either one or the other. I haven't noticed a significant difference myself. I tend to like the ones that curve in a bit because I know when the fish grabs it, he's hooked.
Yeah.
But a lot of people like just the round bend hooks.
I'm partial to the round bend ones just because I like to have as much possible chance of hooking into the fish, and I think that gives me the advantage. Whether it does or not, that's my personal preference.
And that's why I laugh at Andrew. Every time a fish jumps off his hook. Just kidding.
How rare does that happen, though?
Should I remind you about Algonquin 2 years ago?
Yeah, you know what happened there, though? I talked about that. There was that front barb on that treble hook that was rolled over. And as soon as I sharpened that, I didn't throw a single fish off that bait. So hook, that just goes to prove the point of having good hooks is important. Backfired on you. So, crap, I keep saying so. I can't start sentences without it.
Don't worry, I'll edit it out.
Thank you.
Maybe, probably not.
Oh, no. Another thing with kind of year-end maintenance or year-end care, and it also goes to say throughout the season, one of the biggest rules is with plastic baits is don't mix them.
Yes.
So if you have plastic baits, sometimes you leave with some of my Z-Man stuff, I'll leave it rigged on my big like beast hooks, my big paddle tails and stuff. But especially at the end of the year, pull that out, get the plastic off of it, because if it's holding any moisture between that hook and that plastic, that'll be completely rusted right through next year. And if you don't notice it, it's within that bait, and you go to cast, and all of a sudden there's no support on that hook, you're going to lose that fish. And if the plastics are mixed together of different types, especially
Z-Man,
especially if you put a Z-Man plastic with other stuff, you're going to find next year just this giant mass puddle of disgustingness. And
Z-Man.
There's so many old tackle boxes that'll open up. I'm like, these are some great lures, except they're covered in goo. Like,
yeah. I actually was just going through my tackle trays a few weeks ago when I was kind of cleaning out my fishing room. Yes, I have a fishing room. I don't have kids, remember? And I opened one of my trays. It was one of my just generic grab-and-go bass trays, and it has a bunch of flipping baits in it. There's some jigs, a bunch of stuff like that, like frogs. Mm-hmm. And in one of the trays, it was just this like just disgusting goober of nastiness. And I looked at it, and I had forgot there was a flippin' jig with a Z-Man helicross on it, like a crawbait trailer. And I had thrown it in the tray with a bunch of flippin' beavers from a different brand, and they melted into almost like a thick liquid.
Yeah.
And I just threw the jig out. I couldn't get it off. It was just literally coated.
And whatever happens to that, it'll peel paint off baits too.
Yeah, it's gross. So make sure you keep them separate.
Yeah, so make sure there are separate. I like to keep all the Z-Man stuff in their original packaging. It's
honestly,
just a good rule of thumb.
I've got to the point where I like to keep all my plastic bait in all their packaging. Yep. I know there's guys, you'll see like the tournament guys, and they have like their tray with all the different baits. We don't fish professionally. So when I go fishing, I have a box.
I can take the extra 5 seconds and unlock that Ziploc baggie.
I have a big Ziploc baggie or one of those bait bags, unzip it, or a bait binder, or just what I've been using lately is just a cheap ammo box from Princess Auto. And I'll throw a bunch of baits that I want to use that day in it. And then when I want one, I just open it up. It's waterproof. Grab the baits. Who cares? Mm-hmm. You know, that's what if they're in their original package, they stay better. They don't get warped, which happens with a lot of swim baits. And they don't melt together and create nastiness.
The other thing too is you have in the old plastic baits, and this is something that I did a lot of research on. So when you get baits that are from like the 60s, 70s, and they are the old plastic crankbaits and whatnot, you think of like a Diamond Jim or the Head and River Runt is another popular one, or the Beano. These are pretty popular crankbaits. But what happens is you'll look at it and it has this white powder that starts to looks like it's molding almost. It's so gross.
I know the exact smell.
And it smells.
When you open an old tackle box, they all smell exactly the same. And it smells weird, but it's so nice.
So when I first encountered this, I want to keep this bait. I like this bait. And so I tried scraping it off. And what I did was I actually ruined the finish of it and trying to clean it off. So
that lure was worth $400,000. Now it's worth nothing.
It was the one of two, and now there's only one of one. So I made the other guys. No, I'm just kidding. So I caught myself there.
So
when it comes to the old crankbaits, what you can do is you take they often have the little set screws or the eyelets screw into the bait. So you unscrew it all, and it's just either left this hard white plastic, fuzzy white thing. And you take a hairdryer and you just heat it up with a hairdryer, and it all goes clear. And then you take a piece of paper towel and you just wipe off the excess. And then it looks perfectly brand new again. And you haven't scratched any of the surface whatsoever. What that stuff is, and it feels waxy almost, it leaves residue on your hands, that's the releasing agent when they would inject the plastic into the molds in the factory. When they would inject the plastic into the molds in the factory, they would have to spray a release agent or coat the inside of that mold so that when they opened it up, it wasn't just stuck to the sides.
yeah.
And so it's just remainder of that's on the bait, and it starts to solidify and turn waxy over time. So you don't have to worry if that's there. You can just heat it up, wipe it off, and you're good to go. So that's just a little tip about those older baits, because I've had to clean a number of those off. And if you have other baits that, I know sometimes I've pulled some out of my box and there's a weed just like stuck to the side of it and it's caked on and dried on.
Yeah.
So instead of like scratching at it, just soak it in water. Doesn't even have to be soapy water or anything. Just soak it in water. It just rehydrates that and it'll just wipe right off, even with just rubbing it a bit with your thumb. That way you get to keep these baits looking really nice for years, and you're keeping up on the maintenance of them. There's a few little tips, or if you find an old tackle box, you can clean up the baits inside. Now, what about the bottom of the tackle box, or that other, sack on the side of your tackle box? You know the one I'm talking about, that's full of your pliers, that's full of random bits of stuff. And
Yep. Broken leaders.
Yep.
Half plastic baits that ripped off. Frogs that got ripped open by musky.
Yeah. So generally, I
just leave it there forever.
Yeah.
I just don't.
That's why Jess's tackle box now weighs 10 pounds more than it should. But when you have, speaking from personal experience, that's the same pocket I leave my pliers and my mouth spreader, mouth spreaders and my split ring pliers, all that stuff, my little tools, my knife.
Yeah.
And you put it with all these like plastics and this dirt and this trash. It's all in the same pocket. And at the end of the year, even if it says it's stainless steel, but there's going to be, or even on your net. It's like you think of nets, they're designed to be in the water. But I'll tell you what, that spring underneath that little release clip to extend the handle, I bet you that's not stainless steel. And it'll get really stiff over winter. So even at the end of the year, if you get some rust inhibitor of any kind, really, and you just give that a little shot, make sure your pliers, I have some Knipex bolt cutters for cutting off musky hooks if we have to, or if we get embedded with one, you can cut the hook.
It's pronounced Knipex. Oh, let me tell you a story about that quick.
Is it Knipex or Knipex?
It's actually Knipex, and I'll tell you why. I said
it was Knipex.
No, I know. So there's a lot of guys who'll be like, it's Knipex. It is not, and I'll tell you why. This is why you're wrong. It's just funny. So back when I did tool stuff, there's so many people that said it's Knipex, and the family that owns that company started wearing shirts that said it's Knipex, because that's how they pronounce it in that language. So it's actually Knipex. So you're right. Yeah. And if you pronounce it Knipex, sorry, but
or Kneepex. It's not a hard E. What's a long E?
It's like the Q is silent.
So with that, I have it's a $90 tool, right?
Yeah, they're expensive.
They're expensive,
but worth every penny.
Yep. They cut things like butter. It's so nice.
The first time I used one, like, again, I'm a handyman. I use tools every day, but like first time I used one of those, and I was like, whatever, I'll cut a hook, whatever, just to see how it is. It cuts through a musky treble hook with absolutely no effort. It's just like
amazing.
Click, gone. It's like, wow, that comes in handy when you have a hook in your neck and you have to get it out quick.
It's really important then, with this stuff, to make sure it is going to stay rust free, because it's taking the brunt of the abuse, especially in my bag, because that pocket gets wet because it's not a hard bottom bag.
Yeah.
Or in the bottom of your tackle box, you're putting all these baits in it, and that moisture, you open it up and it's raining, and that moisture is sitting in the bottom of that, rusting away at different stuff. Even if it is a fully stainless steel, like I have some Cuda tools, they're fully stainless steel. taking the time end of the year, just make sure it's lubricated, because you can still get a buildup of grit, of like hard water, of like mineral buildup inside of it, and it's just going to make them not work as well the next year and the next year. And you spend a lot of money on these little tools to have in your tackle box. So at the end of the year, taking a little bit of time, just spray it all with some rust inhibitor, some oil, and you're good to go. It's going to last you forever then.
And I have a lot of the cheaper, just steel tools that they rust like heck. And I have some of the long musky pliers, like the big bent needle nose and stuff like that. And they weren't as expensive as some of the more, pricey Cuda tools or stainless tools. And the tools that I have, they do rust every year. Yep. At the end of musky season, I look at them and I'm like, wow, these things are bad. But what you do is, like Andrew said, you get some WD-40 or some, lubricant of some kind, and you spray it on, you rub them off with the shop towel or cloth, or whatever you have, and you leave a little bit of oil on them, and they'll be ready to go for the next year. And guess what? You won't be trying to pry them open in the spring, when you need them the most to unhook that pike. So yeah, keep, what all the trade guys say, though, is you take care of your tools and they'll take care of you. I just picture a tool patting you on the back being like, I hope you had a good day, pal.
I gave you my kidney. You can now live longer. So yeah, I was talking about the net there, your scale. Make sure your scale too. If you have that sitting in the bottom of your bag, you have that's kicking around the boat, just make sure that's not going to be sitting in the boat all winter and getting rusty. Now you got to buy a new scale, or
and take the batteries out.
If the batteries are in it, make sure they're not in there.
Yeah.
Any electronic stuff that you have that you might bring with you fishing that has a battery, you don't want
take
acid
it out.
in it.
I'll give you an example of why you should do that. So I was working with a guy, and we were using we had to use a laser level for some reason, and he pulled out his laser level, and he hadn't used it in a few weeks or a few months. And it was like a nice, expensive DeWalt, like one, $300-400. He pulls it out, and the batteries inside of it.
Is this the guy I know?
No.
Okay.
The batteries in it exploded. You know when they explode and they get all the corrosive like white stuff?
Yep.
And he pulls the batteries out, and the little slot where the batteries had gone in, it was just full of this stuff. And he's like, I have no clue, like, if I can fix this. And I don't know if he fixed enough. They're expensive. So every time, if you notice on laser levels anyway, the one that I have, when you open the hard shell clam box that comes in, there are 4 little slots for batteries. And you're like, is that for extra batteries? No, that's to take the batteries out and put them in. You don't store with the battery. And the same thing goes with any like fish finders and stuff. Take the batteries out, because if they corrode, that piece of electronics is charged. And you're going to have to buy a new one. And they're not cheap.
Yep. Any gear in your boat, just, again, a little reminder, look after it. And for and you might think, oh, well, I don't have a boat, I have a canoe. Guess what? That little orange pail you have has a waterproof flashlight, and if you haven't opened it in the past 2 years, I can guarantee you
that those
batteries have fried that flashlight. So now you are illegal when you're on the water.
Yeah.
So it takes a little bit of time at the end of the year, but we can make sure that the money we spend, and Jesse and I can tell you, it's a lot. The money we spend on our tackle, on just tackle boxes, on our stuff we use in the boat, our rods and reels, it's a lot if you have to replace it. And there are times when, it comes to that and you have to. But if you can repair it, if you can replace the hooks, give these baits new life, if you can make sure that they're maintained over the course of the year, and especially during long-term storage, you don't have to worry about that. You can open up a tackle box and have your $2,000 worth of crankbaits in there, still usable next year and not in a rusted pile of junk.
Yeah.
What are some other things that you think of at the end of the year that you would generally recommend, or that is just part of your habit to do at the kind of the end of open water fishing season?
So one thing that I do definitely at the end of the season, but I do this every day I come home from fishing, is I loosen the drags on my reels.
That's a really good
one. That's a big one. You have to think all the stacks of ceramics, and some good reels use cork, the drag washers. When your drag is tightened down, they're just compressed, which is what a drag is supposed to do. But if you leave them compressed, they can actually stay that way. So at the end of your fishing day, you should always loosen your drag.
Or next year, something is trying to pull drag and it's seized and just snap your line.
So I always loosen my drags. The only thing is you have to remember to tighten them. I remember one time when I just started doing that, I went out fishing, and I was fishing a topwater or something, and this bass just blew up on it, and I set the hook and I had no drag. It was just like, and I was like, dang it. So you got to remember to tighten those up.
That's a good one. We already talked about sharpening hooks. We talked about kind of the whole episode. Just as I put stuff away, I just like to inspect it, make sure that I'm not packing it away with rust already in it, or if maybe I realize that I'm running low on these, and I'll kind of take a little list of what I want to get for next year.
Yeah.
And even then, even when I'm packing up for the year, and I'll look and think, what did I do well on this year? What's something that I might want to get more of? Or what's something I didn't pull out of my tackle box this year, but I really want to try next year? And just kind of taking a note to kind of review my last fishing year.
Yeah.
As I put stuff away, I like doing that.
What about reel maintenance?
That's actually the next thing I was going to...
Oh, okay.
Well, I'll just mention. But I always, every single year, I love to grease up a little bit of the reels. I take them apart as much as I dare to, as far as I'm comfortable with taking the reel apart, whether it's bait caster, spinning reel, doesn't matter. And lubing it up, making sure it's clean, taking a Q-tip, wiping out any of the grit that may have gotten in there, making sure there's no like spare bits of line or weeds wrapped around like the inside spool, all that stuff. And that's how you can keep your reels. Like I have reels well over 10 years old. I know you have some that are like 10 years old and they're still kicking.
I have some Stratics that are 20 years old. Yeah. That I got used and then used them for 15 years. Yeah. So with reel maintenance, we're not going to it's hard to explain this during a podcast. So we're not going to be like, here's how you do it. Cause it really depends on the reel you buy and stuff, but there are tons of YouTube videos, not by us, but there are tons of YouTube videos on how to clean and do maintenance on your own reels. Now it can be very intimidating to open a reel with all kinds of springs and gears and stuff. So if you're not comfortable doing that, I definitely recommend not doing it because I've done it where I've taken apart a reel and you're just like, I don't remember how to put it back together. Yeah. Because there's, especially on spinning reels, there's so many, like it seems pretty basic, but just the way that things fit together in certain order. And you're just like, I put the reel back together and now the spool doesn't spin.
There's an actual trick that I like to use when I do take my reels apart, especially if it's the first time I've taken it apart. And I might be going more than just, take the spool off and lubricate a little bit here and there. You can set up your phone on a tripod or on the shelf above or something so you can film you taking it apart piece by piece and have a nice piece of white paper or something or go to the dollar store, grab some cardboard stock, some construction paper. And as you take each piece off, you can set it aside. Just like how you see guys when they take apart like cell phones and they have this like whole labeled sheet they're like putting all the parts in. Yeah. So if you do it super organized and then you're going to put it back together, you can just rewatch that video in little sections of it and you'll be able to put it back together.
Watch it backwards.
If you can watch it backwards, otherwise just watch it in clips. But that way you can, or even just taking some photos as you go along, that can help you be more confident in putting it back together the correct way.
And the more you do it, especially with certain reels, like once you learn, all reels are different, right? But they're all basically the same. So they're all different, but the parts generally are all the same, So you have the main gear and these springs here. And if you do one reel, you can generally figure out the next. So I do all my own reel maintenance. I don't do anything complicated. If something's broken inside, I'm going to send it in for service. Okay. But basic maintenance where I'm greasing like the main gear, I'm going to take the spool out, grease the bearings. That stuff's easy to learn how to do. And you only have to spend maybe $20-$30 to buy like a reel cleaning kit that comes with the good oil that you need and some good grease. And you can go through all your reels, take them all apart, probably take you an afternoon, Sunday afternoon in the winter, and you can do all your reels and they'll be literally ready to go in the spring, just spinning. Center pin reels are super easy. And again, you're probably not going to be doing that this time of year because now's the time to use center pin reels. But I usually do my center pin reels in like June after steelhead season. Yeah. I'll take them apart, make sure there's no sand. I'll lube up the bearings. It's easy. And again, if you don't feel comfortable, there are service centers that you can take them to. There's lots of guys. Like I used to work with a guy at the tackle store and he used to do reel cleanings for pretty cheap. So just ask around and don't, give your reels to some sketchy guy in Kijiji because he'll just steal them. But it's just like, Andrew's reel cleaning. Meet me at the bank parking lot.
Meet me at the coffee time at this weird corner. Yeah. So that's awesome. I think that's great tips. There's one thing that you didn't mention that I thought you would as to what you should do at the end of the year when you're putting all your open water stuff. And that's move over what you can into other tackle trays for ice fishing and get prepped for ice fishing.
But I have my own ice fishing trays.
So Jesse's a high roller. So
yeah.
we're gonna leave this topic here. We're not gonna get into ice fishing today. We've gone on long enough on that. But I did want to mention, as you may have noticed, we didn't have an episode sponsor today, so I'm gonna fill that role.
Andrew is selling himself.
So Jesse can attest to this. I've been making my own fluorocarbon leaders now for a couple years.
We've been testing them the last 2 years.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that I could make a good leader that would not give out and could last. And I like stuff that if I'm going to buy it, I want it to last. And one of the things that I used to use nylon coated steel leaders for the longest time. And the amount of those that I had snap on me randomly in the middle or the terminal tackle just like break on it. Yeah, they're rated for 30 pounds, but it was breaking at like 5 pounds of pressure.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So Jesse and I we talked for a long time about wanting to make our own leaders. So that's something that I've been doing for the past couple of years. And in fact, all of the muskies that Jesse and I have caught
in the last 2 years,
in the past 2 years, have been caught on the leaders that I've made.
Yeah, and we've only broke off 4.
Yeah,
just kidding.
Stop saying that.
We haven't broke off any.
It's not true.
No, they've been good. And the good thing is, we've tried different snaps and different swivels. Like we've gone through a bunch of stuff. Product testing, right?
Exactly.
And we had a bunch of snaps that we didn't like.
Yep.
And we've been testing, and we finally found the ones that we settled on that we really like. So yeah, actually, the last few fish this year we caught all on the new snaps, and we really like them.
Yeah. So we have, if anyone is interested in some fluorocarbon leaders, you can always hit me up at AOA_Andrew on Instagram. That's probably the best way at this point in time. So if you are looking to get some, and I realize I have missed the main part of the season, but it's coming into winter. I've got some extra time because I won't be on the water every single weekend at least I won't try to be on the water every single weekend. Not that that ever happens. But if anyone is interested in getting some fluorocarbon leaders, some of the benefits that I like for it is fluorocarbon, as we know, it's nearly invisible underwater, which is fantastic. I also use very high quality ball bearing swivels, high quality, high strength tensile snaps. Even we use some leaders too. Instead of having a swivel which weights it down even more, we'll use just a solid welded ring to attach our line to. So there's a few different things that we have. If you're looking for a couple options, I can give you some ideas. Generally speaking, for the musky leaders, I was thinking of doing 2 for $14. And we also have, which I think is really cool, we call them just-in-case leaders. Yeah. So these are 50-pound fluorocarbon, and we use them whenever we're fishing for bass, but there's pike nearby or muskie nearby. And I actually used them to target pike this year, and I didn't have a single one bite through.
And what is the poundage? 50?
50-pound fluoro.
Yep.
And I have some, I use the Albright knot, and I'll tie it directly to my main line, and I have a nice snap on the end of it. Or I'll just use a solid welded ring, and I'll make a few with swivels just in case I want to use a spinner or something with it. But there's a few options. Another great thing is because I make my own, Jesse's like, I want a leader that's 4 inches long. I'm like, done. He's like, I want a leader that's 17.5 inches long. Done. Yeah.
I'll say to him, because I'm super picky. I'm like, I want a leader that's 7.5 inches long. He's like, a fluorocarbon or total leader length? I'm like, total leader length. But it's cool. I like them. I really like the just-in-case leaders because we fish a lot of lakes for bass that have pike in them. And I've lost enough high-dollar chatterbaits and swim jigs over the years to just, I'm always like, I'm fishing for bass. I don't want to use a leader. And I know a lot of people are like, bass don't care. They'll hit straight braid. I used to think that, and it's getting to the point in some of the lakes we fish that are really pressured that I feel like on the very popular spots of the lake, they get hit several times every day on the weekend. And there's so many bass tournaments all summer long on these lakes that using fluorocarbon can be an advantage, or not even fluorocarbon, just not braid. Yep. So I started using them for bass. If I'm bass fishing in any lake where there's a possibility of a pike biting me off, I'll fish a chatterbait and I'm using a 10-inch long fluorocarbon 50-pound leader. And guess what? I caught some of the biggest bass of the last few years this year on those leaders. They didn't care at all. Yeah. Bass don't care.
The other thing I've used too is I'll use a just-in-case leader, and I'll keep that when I'm fishing like a pocket frog or like some more finesse topwater presentations. And what I was kind of started the whole thing of making leaders is because I was trying to find a finesse leader that wouldn't sink my bait. But the only fluorocarbon leaders I could find were musky grade, like 120 pound plus. Yeah. And they were way too heavy. They were sinking anything, or a wire, and it was sinking the bait. So now I can tie on a 6-inch or a 4-inch even little fluorocarbon leader and put that on a pocket frog, and I can still work that bait on top of the weeds. It's not sinking those top waters.
Yeah.
So that's a few of the benefits that I really like about those. So if you are interested, just even just for pricing or to figure out what options are available, feel free to message AOA_Andrew on Instagram.
And
that
all
way
the,
it goes
all the
directly
proceeds go directly to the podcast.
Yes, it's going to help cover costs. Jesse, also, I wanted to mention with him as well, with our podcast, as you brought them up, we have expenses every single month. We mentioned it in the last podcast, I think it was, about our Patreon and how in the new season we're going to be having some Patreon exclusive benefits for some of those members. So we actually did get a few more Patreon members. We want to thank those very much, and all those who are still hanging on and helping us out with that, with the expenses every single month. A huge help. We really, really appreciate what you guys are able to do for us. As usual, if you can't join Patreon, please leave a review. Tell us what you think of the podcast on whatever streaming service you use to listen to it. And always, if you have the chance, give us a follow, give us a share on Instagram or on our YouTube videos. Anything else you want to add to that, Jesse?
No, I just wanted to thank everyone again for the Patrons, like Andrew said. And also, like you said, please give us a review and a rating, because it actually does help boost us in the feed on Spotify and Apple. It actually pushes us up. And if you look at our reviews and our ratings on Spotify, they're pretty dang good. I think we're going up at 185 star reviews, which is higher than a lot of the other fishing podcasts. So not to toot our own horn, but we do really appreciate that. And same on Apple too. It just helps us slightly get, our show pumped out a little bit more to more people. The more people that listen, the better crazy episodes we can get. And again, we're really stoked for season 2, because we have a bunch of guests that we're going to have on a regular basis. So again, I'd like to add too, we talked last week about giving us suggestions for people you'd like on the podcast. We got a lot of messages already from guys and girls that were giving us suggestions. Mm-hmm. Some of the suggestions, like Andrew said, we'd love to have a podcast with the guys from Fishing Canada. Yeah. Which I would love to. I got a lot of, some people said that there's no way we could get, but we'll work slowly. We'll get up there, but we're compiling a list of all these names that you guys and girls put up for us. So hopefully for next season, we can have a lot of interesting people. So if you have anyone that you think would be interesting, that you'd like to be on the show, let us know and we'll add them to the list.
Or if you yourself, you enjoy the content and perhaps you are an expert in a field or anything like that, do you think could be a cool way to be able to share some of your knowledge with the group of our listeners, you can also hit us up as well. So looking at you, Dave Mercer.
He was recommended like 5 times.
I'm sure.
I was like, Dave Mercer would be sick, but he's a busy boy.
Yep. Yeah. He does a lot in the fishing community.
Yeah. It's like, hey Dave, you want to be on our podcast? And he's just like, who are you, peasant?
I'm hosting the classics, you fool.
Oh, I got an idea.
Okay.
To get his attention, sell everything you have. Sell everything you have. Buy a bass boat. Qualify for the Bassmaster Classic. Then when you're on stage with him, weighing in your fish, just be like, hey, Dave, I have a podcast. You think you could come on? What do you think?
We should do it.
Okay. What do you mean we? I said you. Anyway.
So what's the quote of the week then, Jesse?
The quote of the week is, rust is bad. Storage maintenance is good.
Hooks be good.